Part 32. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 311. Chapter 311 Feeling aggrieved. Duanmuai was scolded and beaten severely by the emperor. Although Chi-ho didn't know who was carrying the military stick, he was also Duanmuai's younger brother at the beginning. He was beaten with 20 sticks without any pain at all. He could still carry it, and he was able to jump up and down again after lying down for a day. But the military stick really made a loud bang. Furthermore, he also sincerely apologized to himself and Chi-yu. No one else said anything else. However, he felt like it was stuck in his throat and couldn't spit it out. The Chi family paid their respects to the emperor and queen and left the hall. Before leaving the palace gate, they met the grandson supporting the prince coming from the side hall. Kia quickly saluted, "Your Highness the Crown Prince." The prince stopped, nodded, and asked, "Kia wants to leave the palace?" "Yes, Your Highness." Marquis Chi, go slowly. After the prince said this, he was helped in by his grandson. Chi-ho bowed to see the prince off, and then led everyone back home. After arriving home, Mrs. Tan quickly gathered the doctors who were familiar with her family and showed them to Chi-yu. Chi-ho wanted to ask a lot, but he just said to Chi-yu, "Let the doctor take a look, just rest. You should sleep more peacefully at night, don't stress. You are young and in good health. You will recover in a few days." "Yes," Chi-yu replied in a low voice. He felt very embarrassed and went back to the house directly. "Let's all go back on our own," Chi-ho issued another order. "Chi-woo, and when you sent MRSG back to the hospital?" MRSG's face was expressionless, but her voice was very pleasant. "It's so fun. Find out what Duanmu likes, and I'll give it to you. That's the next best thing." "Mother, how are we going to interact with the princess next?" "I'm still at her house." Wen Yu's voice was also nice. MRSG said, "Xiao, please tell your grandfather later. This will prevent others from finding out about this matter and making a fuss about it." "Yes. Today, my grandfather has also lost a lot of face." "Husband, you can anger him later." Wen Yu smiled mischievously. Seeing that his wife was happy, Chi-woo also laughed. Only Mr. Tan and Mr. Ho were left in the room. "Master Ho, this matter can't be settled," Tan said bitterly. Having not drank water for a long time, Chi-ho drank several cups of tea in a row before saying, "Oh, what's going on? Don't be angry yet." However, Mrs. Tan was still angry. "How can I not be angry? To be honest, when you are at our age, you can't drink too much. I have no clothes to wear. What else do you want? I just hope that my children and grandchildren can be safe and prosperous." "How many days have Chi-yu been back to the capital?" "He was fine when he was drinking fengsha, but he was beaten when he arrived in the capital." She is really angry. How about saying that humans have weaknesses? Although Mrs. Tan loves herself most, she also loves her children and grandchildren. Especially being able to make good arrangements for them also means that she, a poor girl, has managed to break into this world of wealth by relying on her own abilities. She has achieved great things. She is no weaker than the princess and lady present today. Especially better than the princess who lived a good life relying on ancestral influence, but only knew how to hook up with men. Mr. Ho sighed, "I will check the matter again. As for what happens next, let's figure it out." The Tan family disagreed. "The princess's palace is powerful, but our Chi family is not bad either. If we don't have any counterattack, the capital will laugh at us." "Well, you can rest." Chi-ho stood up and returned to the front. Only Chi-hwa was waiting to show his courtesy. "Grandpa, I have left you to worry about today." Mr. Ho's expression calmed down slightly. "It's okay, you should go back and rest." He sat alone under the lamp. After a while, Chi-woo came. "Grandpa, I'm fine here, go back." Grandpa, my grandson has something I want to tell you. What's up? There is a Master Ching in Wenyu's shop. When he was out a few days ago, he encountered a gangster and was seriously injured. The girl who was following him died. At that time, General Duanmu passed by and saved Master Cheng. Chi Wu paused, and seeing that his grandfather did not ask any questions, he continued, Duanmu saw that she was seriously injured, so he took her back to his house. There was a trauma doctor at his house. Master Ching suffered a head injury and was in a coma until now. The doctor said, it's not convenient to move. So I'm still living in the princess's house. A few days ago, Au and I always went to Duanmu's house to see Master Cheng. The princess also knew about this and sent a steward to take good care of him. Chi Ho did not interrupt him and listened silently. But my mind was like a wild horse galloping, and several versions appeared in an instant. When did you know? Duanmu took the woman home for treatment, and then asked people from the yamen to go there. Someone recognized her. When she got home with the letter, I accompanied Au there that night. Master Ching was in charge of the store for Au. He was injured and fell into a coma, so the store suddenly became a bit chaotic, so Au had to keep an eye on it these days. What about the bad guy? Ran. You don't feel weird? There's something strange I've been checking for a few days, but there's still no news. The Marquis laughed twice. First of all, with his skills, what kind of gangster can't detain her? Secondly, when he met a woman on the road and was injured by a gangster, he didn't hand her over to the yamen or find a doctor nearby, but took her with her went to his house. Grandpa, what do you think this means? Chi Ho didn't say anything, he couldn't understand either. If Duanmu has a plan, it is nothing more than Chi Jiajin. But based on him, that's not a joke. But if not this, what else could it be? Since he saved the master of Wenyu's shop, he plans to make good friends with Xiao Wu. But why hit Chi Yu again? It doesn't make sense at all. Besides, grandfather, not only did Duanmu fail to catch the bad guy, he almost suffered a loss. This matter is indeed strange. Xiao, Chi Yu suffered a loss today, but my grandfather told you that his skills are not bad and he is not that easy to deal with. Therefore, Duanmu's strength is evident from this. But he couldn't even defeat the two thugs who robbed him. If you can't catch it, you almost suffer, he. Xiao, what do you think of today's events? I was not present when the third brother said that. However, even if the matter is not as exaggerated as Jin Zi said, it is still very inappropriate for the third brother to discuss the princess's marriage on that occasion. Okay. What is gold? Can you believe his words? Don't forget that there is a difference between inside and outside. Chi Ho was unhappy. Yes, Chi Wu didn't argue. Chi Ho felt bored again. According to you, what should we do next? The emperor scolded him, beat him, and asked him to apologize. Grandpa, what else do you want? Chi Wu's wooden face seemed to be questioning. Xiao Wu, Chi Ho called out with a sullen face. Chi Wu did not stop. To be honest, the emperor did not accuse Chi Yu today, just to give you enough face. Otherwise, the emperor only needs to say, Chi Yu, be careful in your words and deeds in the future. The Chi family will lose all face. Soldier's house, use your fists, not your words. You bastard, Chi Ho was angry. Good advice is offensive to the ears. The more you care about this matter, the more others will laugh at it. If he feels embarrassed, he will never go out again. Chi Wu is very powerful. Kyo's face turned red. Seeing Chi Wu's rare excitement, he was obviously dissatisfied with Chi Yu. I couldn't help but feel uneasy. What I saw in the letter and what I saw when I got home was Mrs. Tan's smiling face and generosity. The descendants below are making progress and each performs his or her duties. The daughters-in-law are also quiet and docile and lead decent lives. A scene of harmony. Could it be that they already have a deep rift and I don't know about it? After Chi Ho left, Tan family was still angry. Thinking of the attitudes of the queen, the crown princess, and the princesses today, and that Princess Huijuan, the widow remarried and forced her original wife to give up, but she actually had the nerve to enter the palace and sit in front of the queen to show off. Hooking up a wild man should lead you to a pig cage. How shameless! Sure enough, the finger of blame will only be pointed at others. At this moment, she had completely forgotten what kind of person she was. In the evening, the children and grandchildren who had been playing in the palace for a day came home and told Mr. Zhou, Li Kun, vividly about Duanmui's beating of Qiyu. He was busy today and did not enter the palace. Now listen, what? Duanmui beat Qiyu? He felt nervous for a moment. Has Duanmui figured out the relationship here? After thinking about it carefully for a long time, I finally shook my head. This is absolutely impossible. Perhaps, that kid Qiyu was so mean that it got into Duanmui's hands. That guy Duanmu is a bastard. But, is it really such a coincidence? I can survive to this day, but I don't believe there are any coincidences in this world. Maybe there's something I didn't expect. Did Li Daniu reveal the news? Since Master Qing was not dead, he sent someone to notify Li Daniu. But Mrs. Zhou, who was in charge of contact, went to the countryside to hold a wedding for her grandson. Would you like to think of a way to talk to her? In any case, it was impossible for the master to see Li Daniu alive and identify her. He is still very confident in his own judgment. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 312. Chapter 312, I can't hold it back anymore. The prince and his entourage returned to the East Palace, and the grandson settled the prince first. Emperor Kinkayu, can't ask a doctor, it is not good to go out. The crown princess secretly invited an old doctor she was familiar with to take the pulse of the concubine. Shui Ying was also sitting next to her. She, her grandson, and Zhang Pingting were very nervous. Only the crown princess looked indifferent, because she suspected that Zhang Pingting was deliberately concealing it, and pretending. Pingting, drink some water first, don't be nervous. Taizhen wiped the sweat from his palms and ordered. Shui Ying became even more angry when she saw how her grandson cared about that bitch. The old doctor sat down slowly, checked his pulse, closed his eyes, frowned slightly, and chanted with his left hand instead of his right hand for a long time, gently shaking his head. Shui Ying felt happy and snorted contemptuously. A false alarm. I said, do you have such a good life? There was a look of ridicule on his face. The crown princess frowned, she is really becoming more and more useless. The grandson became angry and wanted to attack Shui Ying. Sure enough, the old doctor said, my dear, please forgive me for being clumsy. I still can't tell that my concubine is pregnant. Everyone felt sad and happy for a while. Unexpectedly, the old doctor actually gasped when he spoke. However, the concubine's current pulse does not seem to be about to have menstruation. I'm afraid it's still too early, and the happy pulse has not yet appeared. It will take another 10 days to find out what happens when concubine Yi is having her menstrual period. The grandson was overjoyed and full of hope again. Shui Ying was very annoyed and raised her eyebrows. Look at what you said. If you don't come for 10 more days, even a fool will know that it's happening. The crown princess's face sank again, and the grandson said directly, shut up. In front of Zhang Pingting and the doctor, Shui Ying was so despised by her grandson that she felt that her face was dull. Mother concubine. Shut up, the crown princess also said. Then let's do this for now. Pingting goes back and has a good rest. If her menstrual period continues to come, let the doctor see her again in 5 days. Don't be careless. The doctor left carrying the medicine box. The grandson said, send your concubines to rest first, and be careful, he ordered the maids sternly. At the scene, Only the crown princess and Shui Ying were left. The grandson was silent for a while and said, "Mother, concubine, is this the wife you complained about and promised to, showing off the love between mother and son again and again, and allowing your son to marry the wife no matter what, the virtuous wife?" The crown princess looked gloomy. Shui Ying bit her lip. What is she going to do today? At the imperial grandfather's birthday party in the palace, directly kill the general's concubine? Or fill her with medicine and live and die like the previous one? Or, beat Chi Yu like Duanmuai just like that, just beat her until she has a miscarriage? Does she know that there is something called a brain in this world? Shui Ying was sad and disappointed. Concubine, I know that your highness doesn't like me, but don't throw dirty water on me for the sake of other women, right? Shui Ying, do you think this world belongs to you? How disgusting. Taijun looked disgusted. Concubine, look at my cousin. Shui Ying stamped her feet. Okay. Shui Ying, I know that the Shui family has helped the East Palace a lot and has an inseparable relationship with the East Palace. I need the Shui family and will promote the Shui family. However, you are not the only girl in the Shui family. If you dare to do anything wrong again, don't hate me for being unkind. The crown princess is serious and serious. These words are also directed at the grandson. The key point is, the Shui family. This is her position being made clear. That evening, all the Qi family houses received news about MRS 10. Tomorrow morning, everyone would go to pay her respects. And he also said, rules must be established, and you must go every day from now on. The next day, Wen Yu, who was originally going to arrange for Master Qing and Yu Bai to move, could only stay at home. She first asked Qi Wu to go over and see how everything was arranged. If it didn't work, she would ask her cousin to take care of it. Accompanying MRSG to the back. A room full of people and women, neatly arranged. MRS Tan's face lost the friendly smile of the past and she put on an air of dignity. Knowing that MRSG came in with warm words and saluted her, she did not turn her head and listen to MRS Zhu talking about Chi Yu's injury. Mr. Zhu was greatly shocked during this trip to the palace. She felt more at ease and spoke softly. I mean, it's nothing serious. After MRS 10 asked, she turned her eyes to everyone. Before, when the Marquis was not at home, I felt sorry for you. You all had your own affairs. We are all relatives and you don't need to think about rules. Only when the Marquis came back yesterday and asked about it did I realize that something was wrong. It's better to restore the rules. Let's rearrange everything, she said with an unquestionable look. There is nothing to object to, everyone should agree. MRS 10 looked at Wen Yu again, with malice hidden in her eyes. Wen Yu, especially you, please stop running away all the time these days. Although you run a shop, the Qi family cannot afford to support a wife. The first rule for a daughter-in-law of a family like ours is, to live in peace and order. There was provocation in her tone. If you talk back to me today, I will kill you. If the tiger doesn't show off its power, don't think I'm a sick cat. Although the matter is still in the final step, judging from the attitude of the Marquis, this matter cannot go away. Then why should I be polite to you? Yes. Grandma, grandson-in-law will arrange the shop as soon as possible and won't go out again when you responded. MS-10 was a little surprised. Isn't this always saucy and prickly? Why are you so talkative today? She wanted to pursue the victory. What's more? She said with a sarcastic look on her face, tell me about your second uncle. He couldn't live a good life, so he had to divorce his wife and marry another one. She was the original wife who gave him children. That's how you treat others, isn't it? The Chen Shimei in the joke. MSU was not feeling very well today, but now, she is so happy. Fortunately, I came, it was such a joy. Grandma should have done this to her a long time ago. There should be about Xingtian in the court, she interrupted. When you actually agreed with this and nodded directly, Grandma is right. My grandson's daughter-in-law also doesn't agree with the second uncle's behavior. It's just that he is an elder and can't blame him. Tan punched cotton for the second time. Princess Weijun, the emperor gave her such a high status and such a privileged life. She doesn't say she is grateful for God's grace and has become a role model for women in the world, but she flirts with others and fools around with others. She is simply shameless. Restraining oneself from swearing hard. Such a person should. An image of her being stripped naked and paraded appeared in Mrs. Tan's mind, and she smiled ferociously, remove her title and lock her up in a family temple to reflect. When you nodded again, what Grandma said is very reasonable. A woman, no matter what her status is, should abide by the rules. No matter what the reason is, she should not have anything to do with men. When Tan heard this, he immediately thought of something, his anger disappeared, and he fixed his eyes to look at Wen Yu. Wen Yu didn't look at her, but said to himself, as the saying goes, men and women are not close to each other. It is inevitable that her actions will be discussed. However, as a princess, how she behaves is not all the granddaughter-in-law can say. Grandma, you are a person of the highest rank. How about you write a memorial to the Empress, explaining the pros and cons of this matter, explaining the reasons, and giving the Empress a warning. The Empress is a mother-in-law, and her words and deeds are highly praised by the Emperor. I believe she will handle this matter appropriately. Tam felt that some of the words were mocking her, such as, no matter what the reason is, you can't have anything to do with men. Me, I am single and came to Beijing with Mr. Ho. However, she had no clue, and she couldn't use it on herself. Then she sneered, you don't need my reminder to do what the Queen does. Everyone, just take care of yourself. When you also know. She looked at MRSG again. In the past, the person who often made trouble with me has become a piece of wood now. Your family was dissatisfied with your marriage. It was your mother-in-law, who pushed for it for some unknown reason. The Marquis was very angry about this. But the marriage has been decided, and a family like ours I can't do anything to regret my marriage. That's why you entered the Qi family. But the Wen family. There was contempt on her face. A few days ago, your sister was indistinguishable from gold. What is gold? Thinking of the appearance of gold yesterday, she felt a toothache with hatred. Your sister has lost her face and her virginity, and has committed suicide. Your mother has also been disgraced and... Grandma, grandson-in-law interrupts you, that is grandson-in-law's stepmother, not grandson-in-law's mother, when you couldn't stand her mentioning the word mother. What's the difference? Huh? That was your father's real wife, and she is your mother. Don't you understand filial piety? Tan scolded her in a high-pitched voice. When you was a little strange, of course there is a difference. Otherwise, no one would be willing to fill in a house. How outrageous! Mrs. Lu opened her mouth when she saw that the old lady was involved. How dare a granddaughter-in-law talk such nonsense in front of her grandmother? MRSG faced her, third brother and sister, which part of her sentence is nonsense? Stepmother and house filling? Is this Wen Yu's invention? Isn't that how things are in the world? Even my mother has to kiss me when she offers incense in the ancestral hall during the new year. It's up to the mother-in-law to do it or not, but that's the rule. You fart, Mrs. Tan was furious. When you secretly sighed, I didn't want to quarrel, but I couldn't help it. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 313. Chapter 313 Image collapse. Bitch. Mrs. Tan stood up and shouted, her fierce look revealed. She had suppressed the malice for so many years and finally couldn't suppress it anymore. Mrs. Lu didn't get it for nothing. When she heard her mother-in-law's indiscriminate remarks, she immediately rushed over and shouted, "Mother! Don't get so angry." Mrs. Tan was pulled by her before she reacted and stared, when you stood in front of Mrs. as if she was worried that she would rush over and take action. The others in the room all looked shocked. The kitten had never seen her grandmother look like this before. Her face turned pale and she was very frightened. Broken. Mrs. Tan pointed at Mrs.'s mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. You are trying to force me to death." Then she looked at her and fell down on the chair. Ms. Lu immediately shouted, "Mother? Mother, what's wrong with you? Go and call the doctor." "Grandma, what's wrong with you?" Zhu and Su stepped forward. "Hurry up and ask the doctor." Zhu turned around and ran to the door and shouted. Mrs. sneered. When you whispered a few words to her and she nodded. Chi-ho did not go out today. Several old friends came to the house, and some old friends sent their juniors or personal servants to ask about yesterday's incident. When he got the letter and came in, he saw, Mrs. Zhu was squeezing her old wife, and Mrs. Lu was walking around anxiously beside her, mumbling, "Why hasn't the doctor come yet?" Su and a few others stood quietly aside. And when Yu was close to the eldest daughter-in-law Kui, as if she was comforting her softly, Kui lowered her head slightly and could not see her expression clearly. Kyo looked gloomy and asked, "What's going on?" Ms. Lu quickly saluted, "Father." "Mother," she glanced at Mrsg's mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. When Yu was wiping Mrsg's tears, it was obvious that she was fake. Kyo sat down on the chair in the middle and said, "Say," his domineering aura that had been on the battlefield for a long time appeared. "It's like this, the mother arranged the family affairs, which involved the fifth daughter-in-law. As a result, the elder sister-in-law and the fifth daughter-in-law contradicted each other. The mother was so angry, she fainted." "Mr. Kui, what's going on?" Marquis Chi rarely spoke to Ms. Kui in this tone. Mrsg lowered her head and said nothing, and when you replied with tears on her face, "Grandpa." "Grandma," she swore at her mother. She even wanted to rush over and do something to her. After saying that, she started crying loudly. "What?" Chi-ho was startled. Even Tan, who had closed his eyes and pretended to be dead, was so angry that he almost opened his eyes. "I just stood up, when did I want to rush over and take action?" Lu Shi shouted, how can I allow you to talk nonsense in front of the Marquis?" When Yu was immersed in his own emotions. "Poor mother, she is the daughter of my grandfather, and she grew up with fine clothes and fine food. She is over 40 years old, and every time my grandfather sees her, he loves her as if she were a little girl. Even the unsmiling aunt speaks softly to her mother. She has children and grandchildren, but she is scolded and humiliated in her own home. Grandpa. If the mother and grandson-in-law make mistakes, the grandmother can teach them, reprimand them, and even punish them by kneeling in the ancestral hall. If we really violated the 7-out rule and my grandmother took leave and returned to her parents' home according to the rules, we wouldn't have any complaints. But just now, what were grandfather and grandmother talking about?" Ms. Lu was so angry that her mother-in-law was so angry that she couldn't understand why she was talking nonsense. "Father, my daughter-in-law has always been here. Mother was just talking about family matters today, and nothing like what when you made up happened. She slandered Mrs. Ho, the grandmother, and the old lady, which is extremely unfilial. It's not an exaggeration to divorce her. How's it, Chi? Look at this, look at that. My head is so big. When you said to Mr. Lu, third aunt, please teach your grandfather what your grandmother said just now. The Wen family has never taught it, so when you can't learn it. Mrs. Lu was so angry that she was asked to say that in front of her father-in-law. This gentle word is really bad. Kyo became angry and said, "Okay. What's going on? Tell me." He pointed at Zhang Mocking. Zhang Mocking has a very good memory, so he recounted the conversation just now in an impartial manner. Of course, when it came to the last two sentences, she couldn't open her mouth, her face turned red, and she hesitated. When Chi Ho heard Tan say that he was dissatisfied with Xiao Wu and Wen Yu's marriage and was angry, he frowned. When did he ever get angry about this? I also understand that the old wife just didn't express the same tone as yesterday and took the opportunity to vent. Although it is inconsistent with her usual behavior, to be honest, it is okay for the old lady in the family to stand up occasionally. Whose family is not like this? But swearing. Sigh, he asked Mrs. Zhu again, is there any mistake in what the fourth daughter-in-law said? Mrs. Zhu glanced at Wen Yu dissatisfied. Grandpa, the general process is like this. However, they talk so much about the stepmother filling the house, which is really unpleasant to listen to. Mrsg felt sour when she heard Wen Yu talk about how much her father, brother, and sister-in-law loved her. Yes, the treasures of the Kui family turned into grass when they arrived at the Qi family. She was insulted today. How sad would they be if they knew about it? When I was a girl, I was naive and straightforward. When the Empress pointed at Qi Yuyi for her to look at, his handsome face and tall figure were deeply imprinted in her mind. But I didn't expect that after marrying him and going through these years, tears would actually flow down my face. He shook his head helplessly. Father, if it weren't for Qi Xiao and Xiao Wu, I would have left the Qi family long ago. Wen Yu was implicated by me. Over the years, the most right thing my daughter-in-law has done is to give Xiao Wu married her. She was right, it was me who was wrong. I should not have followed the queen's orders and married her. If you want to punish me, just come to my daughter-in-law. After saying that, she turned around proudly and went out. This made Chi Ho's ears feel hot. If you can't get up or get down, what's wrong with this home? Before when you left, she said to Chi Ho, Grandpa, my granddaughter-in-law has fulfilled everything my grandma said today. You may not know that my daughter-in-law's shop has been in some trouble recently, and it's in a precarious situation. My granddaughter-in-law is really relieved no less. But today, my grandma said she was not allowed to go out anymore, and she agreed without even trying to explain or argue. Grandpa, my grandma respects her very much. As for what the third aunt said later, the so-called conflict, it was the grandmother who mentioned Wen Yu's mother disdainfully. With tears in her eyes, she looked out the door. My mother passed away right after giving birth to Wen Yu. Therefore, my grandson's daughter-in-law has no impression of her at all. She stayed with her grandmother for a few days after she was born, until she got married. It was her the old man raised me and taught me. The newly married wife of her father has been working abroad with her father. Since childhood, I can count the number of people I have seen on my 10 fingers. That lady was neither kind nor nurturing to Wen Yu, so the Wen family's grandmother only asked me to address her as Mrs. Every family has scriptures that are difficult to recite, and the Wen family also has Wen family rules. But today, my grandmother brought up the scandal of the Wen family. Although I don't know whether what my grandmother said is true or not, I don't want her to mention Wen Yu's mother in this tone. No matter whether she is wrong or not, as an elder, Grandma will not have any resentment if she wants to punish or beat her. However, if my mother is humiliated because of me, then, Wen Yu will not agree to it even to the death. She burst into tears, feeling aggrieved at being forced into a corner. Kyo's eyes twitched. Why did she describe her old wife as a domineering and unreasonable evil woman? Lu and Zhu felt like their ears were being pricked with needles. As for Mr. Tan, he was so angry that he almost woke up. This is simply unreasonable. The image I have worked so hard to maintain for so many years is just like what she said. Okay, Chi Ho couldn't bear it anymore. I originally thought that this family was harmonious and peaceful, with kindness at the top and filial piety at the bottom. It was different from other families. But I didn't expect it. It turned out to be like this. Coupled with the loss of face caused by Chiyu yesterday, he was really angry. When everyone heard this, they all knelt down. Mrs. 10 was embarrassed, she couldn't open her eyes, and she couldn't continue to pretend. The key point was that Mrs. Zhu let her go and knelt down. Her body was tilted and had no support. It was extremely uncomfortable and she couldn't move. The girl beside her didn't come over either. I feel so uncomfortable that I hope the Marquis will send these away as soon as possible. Grandpa, yesterday the third brother made you lose face in the palace, and today when you caused trouble at home and caused you trouble. It is indeed the grandchildren who are not living up to expectations. When you continued to say. When you. Go and see how your mother-in-law is doing. Come down, Chi-ho thought to himself, don't talk nonsense with me. Happy weekend to my violent loving stinkers. I didn't sleep well. There was wind and sand in Beijing, so I felt uncomfortable anyway. If there is a mistake, please correct it in the afternoon. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 314. Chapter 314. There is still a husband. When you stopped talking nonsense, bowed politely, and turned around to go out. The faces of the other granddaughter-in-laws have not calmed down even now. One after another, they stood up carefully, bowed quietly, and left. Only Xiao's wife, whose tears had dried, looked as normal as if nothing had happened. Who is she? There is also the old wife, her in the impression, and her in their mouths just now. What is going on with these women? When you went directly back to MRSG's room, Master Marquis isn't angry with you, is he? Grandpa's face is not good looking, but he has restrained himself when you disagreed. Seeing MRSG's expression sad. When you coaxed her, mother, you should be happy that she lost her composure today. She didn't see it, and her sister-in-law was frightened. She clutched her stomach and looked surprised. She didn't expect that the most noble and considerate grandmother, and this face. There will be surprises for her in the future. MRSG has completely let go of MRSU. I really don't pay attention to that man's thoughts, suppressing his temper, going around in big circles, and getting what he wants. Inside. We don't take it seriously, and we can't let her get it, when you warned. If the men of the Qi family are as stupid as them, holding the title and commanding the army, to be honest, it would not be a good thing. They might get involved in some bad things, or they might lose the battle and lose their territory. In the end, they will be implicated. If you don't get it, destroy it anyway, and if your ancestors look for unfilial descendants, they won't find it on us. As he was talking, Chi Yi, the unfilial descendant, came in. Ms. Kui, what are you talking about? Someone else said in an angry voice. After entering the door, I saw Wen Yu was there, and said sternly, my fifth daughter-in-law, you go out first. Wen Yu stood up and tried to leave, but did not take a step. He only looked at MRSG. MRSG grabbed her and said, Wen Yu is with me. If you have anything to say, just say it. This woman is really crazy if she doesn't even address you. Chi Yuyi was so angry that he glared at her. How angry have you made, mother? MRSG felt Wen Yu patting her, maybe because she didn't want her to get angry, so she smiled coldly. Yes, I am very angry. She is so angry that she is just like the village woman in Nyogia village scolding her daughter-in-law. It's over. You, Chi Yuyi pointed at her, you look like a lady now. Ha! You are right. I am really a real lady, I am what I am, I never pretend. MRSG was even more angry with him. Kui Fengying, do you think I can't do anything to you? Chi Yuyi threatened. He really wanted to divorce her, drive her away, or even, kill her. Yes, she deserves to die. MRSG looked like she knew everything. Chi Yi, do you also think that I can't do anything to you? You think that I can't leave the Chi family, right? It seems that you really don't understand me at all. Chi Yi thought about it for a while and gave up. At least, Mr. Kui cannot touch her while he is alive. So, he sighed, we have been arguing all our lives, and it's really boring. I have decided, after the new year, I will find a foreigner and take Xiao Yun with me. Now, I want to tell you that the title of the Qi family, I won't give it to my third brother. These days, Aunt Xiao Yun works hard in bed and out of bed in various ways of her own. Finally, Qi Yuyi understood that it would be very bad for the two of them if he got the title. Then, he planned to take Xiao Yun to find a small town with beautiful mountains and clear waters, and live a wealthy and leisurely life, with only each other and no need to worry about anything. Abandon all these confusions of right and wrong, battlefield killings. MRSG opened her mouth and replied, who cares? With Wen Yu pulling her back, he said, Mother, then he turned to Qi Yuyi and said, Father, I'm afraid it won't count if you say this alone. What did you say? The daughter-in-law interrupted, saying this, Qi Yuyi simply didn't believe it. Wen Yu said calmly, it's not like my daughter-in-law didn't inquire about anything when she got married. So we know that the reason why the late empress granted the marriage was precisely because the Qi family had a title. Otherwise, you would have been the sixth grader at that time. Officer Pin, not to mention how much the late empress loves her mother, it is impossible for the only legitimate daughter of the Kui family to marry like this. What are you talking about? You can say this. Qi Yuyi was confused, what's going on with this woman? No wonder Mrs. Kui married her into the family, she was as lawless as Ms. Kui. Father, this is a fact. You think, after all, even the daughter-in-law can find out. Moreover, the daughter-in-law also found out that after the emperor succeeded to the throne, there was a period of time when the emperor took back the titles of some meritorious families. It seems that there are quite a few. The Qi family escaped that disaster precisely because their mother married into the family. In this case, the Qi family must also benefit from this family. It cannot be said that it is only used when it is necessary to win the mother. After you have finished using it, you say there is nothing wrong with not having a mother, right? I don't know where you got this nonsense from. Let me tell you, it's nonsense, Qi Yuyi shouted. Nonsense, MRSG smiled, I'm afraid you, a fool, don't know about it, right? What do you know about this family's affairs? Stop instigating. Qi Yuyi felt that he had seen through their plans, and said with a faint smile, the title belongs to my father, and he can give it to whoever he wants. You guys are planning in vain. Father, my daughter-in-law is going to refute you again. This title does not belong to my grandfather. It was an honor obtained by the great ancestor of the Qi family who worked hard to assist the emperor in conquering the world. And it was also a family rule set by his old man. Therefore, even if the fourth ancestor was a great uncle, even Jeozu didn't give him the title. Rules are rules. Even my grandfather has no right to ignore them. Oh, but, I don't have to accept it. Qi Yuyi was full of bad taste. If you don't accept it, where is the eldest brother? If the eldest brother is not interested, then he still has a husband. In short, this title cannot escape the eldest son's door. My daughter-in-law thinks that being a marquis is quite majestic. You are shameless. Qi Yuyi became anxious and scolded his daughter-in-law. MRSG laughed loudly after hearing this, and the depression she had felt just now was gone. Qi Yuyi, you are so promising. I don't know how you achieved all those military exploits. If you want it, my mother will go out of her way to help you compete. When the time comes, you are the most outstanding among the marquises in Beijing. Thank you, mother, for your kind words, when you smiled. You. Chi-yi, do you not want it, or do you know that they have no intention of giving it to you? Chi-yi couldn't defeat them, so he didn't want to speak anymore. Looking at the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law coldly. MRSG did not let him go. How old are you? Even your granddaughters are running around, but you haven't even become a prince. Even if you are deaf and can't hear the rumors and jokes outside, you still don't look at it. Are there still such people in the capital? Even if they fight to death and commit murder, they still have something to show for it. Chi-yi still couldn't hold it back and said, I'm not as vulgar as you. I don't pay attention to those things at all. MRSG clapped her hands together. Okay, then we will speak for you outside later. Your father refuses to give you the title. It's not that he is more interested in the third son, it's not that you, mother, wants to leave the title to your biological son, so it's not because you are stupid and incompetent. It's because you are noble and regard fame and fortune as nothing. Okay. Today, I can't talk anymore. Chi-yi walked away angrily. Everyone had left, and Chi-ho sat next to Tan, with a look of helplessness on his face. Tan's body turned to one side, whimpering. This woman is extremely strong. For her own sake, she dares to go up and fight with a knife and come back covered in blood. I didn't shed any tears. Yan Ling, why are you doing this? Tan said while crying, in this home, it seems that I am happy and have no worries all day long, but who knows how much sadness I have to endure. How much wantonness and contempt do I have to bear before I let myself go? Can someone say something generous? Did you hear everything just now? She is just a granddaughter-in-law, yet she dares not to give in to me, saying nothing but the same thing. You haven't seen it yet? They look down upon me. She cried for a while and then said with sobs, I thought that as long as I care more about them, protect them more, be less picky, have fewer rules, and be sincere instead of sincere, I will always gain their respect. But you see. Mr. Ho was in a state of confusion. Everything in the past 2 days made him dissatisfied, but he couldn't express it. They also said that they didn't know whether I performed concubine rituals in front of my sister's memorial tablet. They didn't know, but you knew it. Did you see it with your own eyes? I always have a lot of rituals. Such a matter, Mr. Tan would not make any mistakes. Especially when Chi-ho was around, she took the initiative to bring up all kinds of worship services long in advance, and arranged everything in great detail. Ho Chi and Chi-yi both recognized her very much and were so moved that they couldn't help but. So of course he would nod, I know. They are stepmothers one at a time, and they are filling houses one by one. I am like this, and I am not afraid of what they say. But is that what they mean? They can't find any other reason, so they use this to humiliate me. Chi-ho's head was getting big. Don't think too much, I know you have been wronged. When I turn around, I will suppress them. But, that thing hasn't been done yet, so you have to keep it a little bit. He also felt a little bit annoyed. Tan suddenly turned around and said, Master Marquis, do you think they know your plan? Without waiting for Chi-ho's answer, she thought seriously, things haven't been quite right in recent times. So, I got Brother Xiao out of here. You were. 80% of the time, they know your plan. So, target us from all aspects. Tan's words were vague, and there were no specific incidents or evidence, but she planned to draw Kyo to her camp. There will always be some of the foreshadowing that will work. The swimming pool I frequented was being renovated, so I had to stop swimming 4 times a week. I started this book and wrote at least 5,000 words every day, but I haven't touched it yet. The scale at home was broken for a few months, and I just bought a new one yesterday. The goods arrived in the morning, and as soon as I took some measurements, I suddenly felt bad. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, See the peach fish again. Chapter 315. Chapter 315, 3 longs and 2 weaknesses. After leaving MRSG's yard, Chi Yi returned to Aunt Ziyun's house. Since he came back, after having a big quarrel with MRSG, he moved in generously. Aunt Ziyun sat alone with a sad look on her face. He felt distressed and comforted softly, "Don't worry. The doctor has seen it. Mother is fine and she is talking to father. Just now, I have mentioned the matter to MRSG. Didn't I ask you to tell me when the time comes? Don't be afraid. We have made up our minds. Next, we will be busy with our own affairs. The first is the marriage of the kitten, and the second is to find a town of your choice. Moreover, you follow me, you are not going to suffer, you need money. I still have to think about it." Chi Wu came back in the evening and heard Tan swearing at his mother and wife. His face became gloomy and he wanted to turn around and see his mother. At this time, the person coming from the front said, "The Marquis has invited you, and asked the 5th master and the 5th grandma to come over." The two of them arrived at the front study room and greeted the Marquis according to the rules, but neither of them looked very good. Chi Ho pretended not to notice. "How is your mother?" Chi Wu said, "My grandson just came home and I haven't gone over to see him yet." Chi Ho turned to look at Wen Yu. Wen Yu said, "Grandpa, my mother didn't say anything. But my grandson-in-law knew that she felt sad." Kyokaimo said, "Today we are just chatting with each other, forget it in the past. You two will try to persuade her later. At this age, it is not good to be angry all the time." Neither Chi Wu nor Wen Yu spoke. Chi Ho was helpless and said, "Yesterday, what happened in the palace, although the emperor reprimanded and beat him, and Duanmu also apologized. However, the Chi family's face is not bright. Your grandmother loves the children of the family the most. She is distressed when something happens to Chi Yu, and she will also be distressed when other grandchildren encounter this. She is angry and has no way to express it. As juniors, you should be more considerate of her. Grandpa, my grandson's daughter-in-law is young and may not be accurate in judging people. Not long after she married into the Chi family, she knows something, but I don't know whether to tell it or not. What do you want to say? If my granddaughter-in-law said so, don't blame my grandfather. My grandson daughter-in-law thinks that maybe he brought it upon himself when the third brother was beaten yesterday." Yesterday, Chi Ho was already unhappy with Chi Wu's performance. When he heard what Wen Yu said again, he became furious. "Wen Yu, do you know what you are talking about? Grandpa, you haven't thought, maybe what Jin Zi said is true." Wen Yu opened her two beautiful big eyes and looked at the old man. Kyo narrowed his eyes. "You must have evidence for what you say. If you fabricate things out of thin air, stir up trouble, and slander your brothers, don't blame your grandfather. Then granddaughter-in-law, let me tell you one thing. I haven't even told my husband about this matter. After grandson daughter-in-law has said it, it's up to you to believe it or not. But if word gets out and there are any adverse consequences, grandson daughter-in-law is not responsible. Stop talking nonsense." Master Wen's daughter Wen Shizu came to the house before she was recognized. Ziyaji, the girl next to grandson's daughter-in-law, went to the second door to pick her up. When she came in, she met Chi Yu in the garden. He blocked their way and stared at Zuzu wantonly. Ziyaji felt something was not good, so he took Zuzu down the main road, trying to avoid it by taking a path on the grass. As a result, he actually chased after her. Ziyaji protected Zuzu behind his back, indicating that he was the guest of his grandson's wife. Chi Yu glared at Zuzu, insisting on asking Zuzu's name, telling Xiaoji to get away, and threatening to kill her. Fortunately, several girls from other courtyards passed by at that time, so Ziyaji had time to run back with Zuzu. At that time, the two of them were so panicked that they almost lost their shoes. As Wen Yu spoke, he looked at Chi Ho. His face was as dark as the bottom of a pot. Afterwards, my grandson's daughter-in-law was very angry and told her mother about it. She just hoped that her mother would tell her grandfather and grandpa and punish him severely. But her mother said that Zuzu is a simple and kind-hearted girl, and she should not be involved in such a situation. If word gets out, if he keeps talking nonsense, Zuzu will suffer in the end. So, the granddaughter-in-law had no choice but to endure it. The mother felt that it would be useless to not mention it, so she privately approached her third aunt and asked her to take care of the family and her son. After that, grandson's daughter-in-law didn't have a good face towards Chiyu and Zhu. Grandpa, if Mr. Wen finds out about this, he is a civil servant and will not use his hands to beat him, but what he said will be no weaker than Duanmu's beating. Therefore, son's daughter-in-law concluded, what Jin Zi described yesterday probably did not slander him. The beating he received was not really unjust. Chi-ho instinctively didn't believe it. How is this possible? As for what you said about Miss Wen, even if there is such a thing, it may be that he saw a stranger at home and felt strange, so he asked more questions. He is a soldier and is more vulgar. There are, too. When you smiled and said, when my mother came to look for my third aunt said the same thing. Chi-ho was choked. He felt that this little girl was really tricky. If you explain it this way, grandson-in-law won't say anything else. However, he still feels a little regretful. I should have told you that matter in the first place. Whether you punish him or teach him, let him know how powerful he is, and maybe he won't. What happened yesterday, Chi-ho was in a state of confusion. Is this true? Are they really talking about Chi-yu? Think of that beautiful grandson, with his silver helmet and silver armor, his iron spear and his white horse, walking gracefully on the battlefield, and how many people praised him. Every time he returns to the city, how many young ladies and young wives throw veils and purses at him. How come you have become a frivolous adulterer? When you continued, it's so good that the relationship between the Xingguo Duke's mansion and the Princess mansion has been set up like this. You still feel that they can't deal with the Qi family. What's even worse is, what do you think about the emperor? Qi Wu also said, Grandpa, the emperor is very fond of you. But let's not squander it. Okay. Grandpa will investigate what you said. If it is found that he has indeed misbehaved, how to deal with it will not be lenient. Grandpa, let me tell you again, your grandmother, for so many years, her words and deeds have been observed by grandfather. In her eyes, she is a kind old lady at home and a kind-hearted MRSho outside. What happened yesterday was so unexpected, that Duanmuai was already red-eyed. If the emperor hadn't arrived in time, your third brother would have been in danger of death. Not to mention your grandmother, even your grandfather couldn't slow down Shen'er for a long time. Due to the limitations of her background, she didn't know how to deal with this matter. When you contradicted her, she spoke indiscriminately. She also felt something was wrong just now, but, we can't let our elders apologize to you or your mother, right? Listen to your grandfather and let this be done. You have given your order, and I will obey it. My granddaughter-in-law will also advise my mother well. When you nodded. Grandfather, today, my grandson went to Duanmu's house, Ji Wu said. Kyo is still quite awkward. Originally, Au wanted to move Master Qing out in the past 2 days. As a result, she couldn't get out. Duanmu meant that if she didn't have time to move, she would just live like this, he would take care of food and drink without us paying any money. Grandfather, look at what General Duanmu is doing, he is so refreshing, he doesn't hit anyone who catches him, Wen said, finishing the attack. Chi-ho was in a complicated mood. It seemed that the only way to save some face was to treat this matter as if they were no strangers. No, he and Xiao Wu get along well. Sigh, I didn't expect that he would still have to take care of these things. It's up to you to decide these things, but you'd better move out as soon as possible. Yes. So grandson-in-law, can you still go out as before? Go, go. It's just Duanmu's business, don't mention it at home. Where your mother is, if your eldest brother isn't here, just spend more time with her. On the way back, Chi-Wu was still unhappy and comforted him with gentle words, don't take it too seriously. Mother is not angry anymore. I will just let you be happy sooner or later. How did Duanmu feel after being beaten? Chi-Wu smiled, he is lying on the bed today. Yubai went over to accompany him. Maybe to thank him for avenging Master Qing, Yubai also played a song for him. I originally wanted to play chess with him again, but Duanmu kept pulling him up and down. It seemed that Yubai was pinching his nose to hold back. Duanmu's laughter was heard outside the courtyard. I told them that you couldn't leave the house for the time being and asked cousin Song to help move it. Duanmu quickly said not to move yet. When he is well raised, do it yourself. Yubai's piano and chess piece is worth a lot of money, he still made the profit. Under the lamp, Mrsu was stroking her belly and smiling. I didn't expect that grandma is so powerful, the tiger is showing off its power, it's so happy. There was a nanny beside her, who was quite sensible, so she whispered, Grandma, I think you should go over there and have a look. Let me see her. What are you talking about? Even if I see a flower, she won't be nice to me. What's more, the Su family is not the Wen family, and they have never taught the women in the family to be shameless. Grandma, you have to think about it carefully. In the future, you will live with your wife. To put it bluntly, the old lady has a lot of good things and two shortcomings. Who will support you? You haven't seen it yet? How cruel they are, driving a wedge between me and Chi Xiao. What did he do to me before? What does he do to me now? My mother-in-law is stupid and arrogant. It was all the idea given by that Wen Yu. Grandma, you're right, you're a bitch. Thinking about it, she felt very sad. My husband didn't approve of me. He kept a sullen face when he entered the house and kept away from me. This time, he simply hid away. I'm still pregnant, her eyes were red again. I don't need to fawn over her. The most important thing now is to give birth to a son and take care of the house again. When my husband comes back, I won't lose my temper with him and try to win over him. I have a husband and an eldest son. Even if the old lady has some shortcomings, I will not afraid of her either. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 316. Chapter 316. So shameless. The greetings every day only lasted one day and ended without any problem. To save face, Mr. Tan said that he needed to rest. No one was seen except the kitten. Wen Yu was very happy to be able to go out, so as usual, he went to the princess's house first. Master Qing's condition has stabilized, but he still hasn't woken up and looks thinner. The waiter said that General Duanmu had found a medical clinic, and there was a special way to feed patients like this. They had already started using it, and it would be better. Yubai is not in the room, but I heard that General Duanmu called him over to chat. It is not easy for her to disturb a grown man when he is recovering from his injuries. Since there is no inconvenience, just stay for 2 more days. When they arrived at the shop, Zuzu was very happy to see her and whispered, he deserves to be beaten. He is bad. Last time at Chi's house, he scared me and Ziaji. Hu Fei heard it with long ears nearby. He didn't know about it yet and planned to ask about it later. How is Lan Zhou doing here? There are many people here, and he is sometimes a little nervous. Moreover, he is afraid of Hu Fei. Hu Fei was also depressed. With his white hair and young face, he thought so. Lan Zhou was frightened by looking at him, so he always hid behind Zuzu and ignored him. Seeing Lord Wen was overjoyed. When he came back, he called Lan Zhou over and told him a story. He is not as serious as the old gentleman. Lan Zhou was very enthusiastic and full of emotion, especially when he talked about the various famous animals in the classic of mountains and seas. Even if Lan Zhou didn't understand them, he loved listening to them. When Yu arrived at the store, he discovered that Wen Su was there with his third uncle's two daughters. "Why are you here?" Wen Su said, "Sister. We were bored at home, so we came here to play. Big brother sent us here and picked us up in the evening. We helped them with their work." Wen Jing and Wen Man also smiled. "Work hard and there will be delicious noodles for lunch." Wen Yu called Wen Su and asked, "Where are Wen Jiao and the others?" "They are at home. Didn't General Duanmu receive a military stick?" The princess went away without greeting them. The two of them were very anxious and said they wanted to visit the doctor. They were also arranging to buy ointment, but their grandmother stopped them. Wen Jiao was still arguing for a long time, saying that the princess was so kind to her, so how could she make it okay if she didn't go to see if such a big thing happened. Wen Wan also helped. Grandma is angry, even Wen Jiao is not afraid. Finally, the grandmother lost her temper and banned them. Oh, it should have been so. Later, my grandmother sent someone to deliver some medicinal materials in the name of the Wen family. Wen Yu thought to herself that maybe her words worked, so the old lady restrained herself. The palace banquet, Wen Jing, you didn't go. Grandma didn't take us there, but, mother said, it doesn't matter whether we go there or not. Wen Yu nodded, that's true. If you feel bored, come to the store to play. I will go out with you later. Thank you, sister. Sisters Wen Jing helped the embroiderer divide and arrange the threads, with sweet and lively smiles. It can be seen that the third aunt has raised her with care. I didn't follow my third uncle's temper. Walking around in the shop, it is impossible to say that Master Qing's injury has no impact on the shop. All I can say is, try to minimize the impact. It seems that relying on one person is not enough, you have to find a way. Just as he was thinking about it, Song Shang came and sat down in front of Wen Yu. Do you still need someone to keep an eye on Wei's place? I can't mobilize my manpower for the moment. If I can remove it, let him keep an eye on Song Tao. Others man, I'm worried that that boy Song Tao will have an impression. It should be fine. Mrs. Li didn't know that our people were still following her. But I asked Mrs. Li to talk to her again. It just so happened that Mu Bo and I were going to be sent abroad. How is Song Tao? Oh, he works hard and flatters me and my mother without any blind spots. My mother admires him very much. I noticed that he has a very good mind and knows the relationship between the people around me clearly. Even my mother's side grandma's youngest son can remember the leg injury he suffered from a fall more than 10 years ago. Song Shang shook his head. Then he said, he is really thoughtful. But I'm afraid he didn't expect that before Su-er could use it, it would be useless. It was not easy to spend the moment, or thinking that it would be useful in the future. With the money, Su-er could be raised. 2. Su-er has nothing to do all day long, he has plenty of money, and he has become an uncle, he started to fail to learn. Song Shang gave a bad smile, wait and see. Mainly Song Tao, I want to see what he wants to do. Don't be careless. You know what he did, but we don't know what's going on with the person behind it. When you made an appointment with Mrs. Li, and when the time came, she arrived as promised. Let the girl pack snacks downstairs, and she went directly upstairs with a look like if you have anything to say, tell me quickly, I have a lot to do. When you smiled and said, ma'am, it's so refreshing to do things. It's our first time to work together, it's such a pleasure. Mrs. Li snorted, look at the smile on your face, you won't have trouble with me again, right? Try to restrain yourself. How can such a beautiful woman get involved in such things? Your shrewd expression matches yours. His image is so inconsistent. Even the queen saw it when she saw him for the first time. When you said sincerely, you have wronged when you. I invited you here today out of pure kindness. Before, there were always people watching at Wei's place. In a few days, these people may have more. It's important. I wonder if there will be any problem with you taking it. Mrs. Lee was a little surprised. It's no problem. I've made arrangements for that day. Of course when you is convinced by what you do. It's just that Mr. Yang is too meticulous. When you is worried that it won't be as simple as what we see now. Look, even if what he planned is accomplished, what will happen? With you, there is Mr. Ge. How dare he marry Webster home openly? No matter how many circles he goes around and how many excuses he finds, as soon as you shake your head, his work is in vain, right? But if he is playing a big game, not only your sister, but also Mr. Ge, and you must be careful. Mrs. Lee looked at Wenyu and remained silent. Such a beautiful girl actually has such a brain, she really can't be judged by her appearance. Just like Yang Xiangdong. I have thought about it myself and told my father-in-law and husband about it. The father-in-law also believes that when Yang Xiangdong does things, it will not be just 2 steps, but must be 1 step after another. But no matter how he tries, with his father-in-law here, his efforts may be in vain. But what if there is someone behind the scenes, including the father-in-law? Wenyu, thank you for your reminder. I appreciate your kindness. We will pay attention to this matter. As for the manpower you mentioned, actually, to tell you the truth, I really lack. My father-in-law and my husband entered official careers based on scientific examinations, step by step, without any superpowers. They were all achieved through hard work. There are many capable subordinates, but there are really none who have this kind of talent. If it works, go and ask the person who is keeping an eye on this matter, can you leave one for me? When you smiled and said, let me ask for you. It shouldn't be a big problem. Thank you. Mrs. Lee also smiled. After 2 days of busy work, Chi Wu came back and told Wenyu the good news, the concubine is pregnant. After hearing this, Wenyu was happy for her, but also a little worried. I asked someone to ask the general's family the day before yesterday, and they said there was no news. My grandson said that he is very happy today. I'm happy. I hope he can protect her this time. I have to go and see her. When Wenyu went there, Pingting had just finished losing her temper. When she saw her coming, her eyes were red. What's wrong with me? I haven't been as arrogant as I am now since I was a child. I can't suppress it. I don't want to be depressed at all, I only feel happy when I vent. Could it be that your previous open-mindedness was just an act? Now that you're pregnant, why don't you just stop pretending? When you teased her. Talking nonsense, Zhang Pingting was also embarrassed. Zuzu looked at her curiously. How do you feel? It's nothing else, it's the same for eating, drinking, and sleeping. I just get angry if I can't touch it. Just tell Zuzu what you want to eat. It's not that much, I'll tell you if you have something to eat. I brought you rice dumplings. I'm afraid you might find them greasy. I put dates and raisins in them, they're very refreshing. Let's heat one up for you to eat. Okay, let's heat up 2 of them. Zuzu took the palace maid to do some work, and when you asked, is that grandson-in-law going crazy? When I came back from the palace, I was scolded. The crown princess also said harsh words in front of the grandson. She didn't dare to do anything for a moment. Besides, I'm not someone to be trifled with. Treat me like the concubine in front of me, that's she's dreaming. I'm not afraid of making trouble. Do you want silver? I have a lot of silver. How about giving me some? When you originally just said that when she was doing business, she said she would give herself money. At this moment, when I heard that Zhang Pingting was really stunned. Zhang Pingting didn't take it seriously and said, Li Qiwan. He took away all the money in my hand. He is so shameless to touch your dowry. Pingting nodded in agreement. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 317. Chapter 317, Birthday Spice Up. Chi Yu is in good health, receiving good medicine and receiving proper care. Just a few days later, the swelling on the face has subsided, leaving only a faint bluish-yellow color, making it look even more handsome and mysterious. The pain in my arms and shoulders is no longer serious, but the doctor told me not to exert force yet. Mrs. Tan looked at her handsome grandson with a smile on her face and praised her without hesitation. After all, he is a martial arts practitioner. The good thing is that he is fast. That person is a madman, we didn't notice it in advance. When you get better, we will always. I need to find an opportunity to express this. Chi Yu nodded. It was originally planned to be a fun time for Mrs. Tan's birthday, but after this incident, she lost her energy, so she decided to have a family dinner at noon. She was dressing up when a girl came in and said, "Old lady, Mrs. Joe at the second door said she has something to come back to you with." Mrs. Tan looked at herself in the mirror and nodded, "Let her come in." Mr. Joe came in and saluted, "Old lady." "Well, you guys, please go out first." Ms. Tan's hair was not combed and her clothes were not changed. She sent the people around her out first, and then asked in a low voice, "What's the matter?" Mrs. Joe looked around, took 2 steps closer, and then whispered, "A few days ago, I asked you for leave and went to the countryside for something. I just came back yesterday, and in the morning, a letter came from the old lady then." He lowered his voice and said something. Tan's black eyes suddenly froze, and he suddenly broke into a sweat. He's not dead, but was saved by that madman? Then, did he hit Chi Yu on purpose? My mind was spinning rapidly, thinking about the connections. Mrs. Joe said, "My lord, that person may have guessed that this was no ordinary robbery, but his people definitely left no clues." "Don't worry. Reassure me," Tan screamed. "Madam," Mrs. Joe quickly stopped her. Mr. Tan lowered his voice and cursed bitterly, "This loser can't do such a thing well. He said he didn't leave any evidence, so he didn't. He said it, that madman can realize that this is not an ordinary robbery. Don't be anxious, don't be anxious." Mrs. Tan felt that her back was wet. She thought about it carefully. Bai Yuking definitely didn't see me that day. I definitely didn't see Xiao Yun either. No one knows Li Kun yet. So, don't worry, it can't be related. She was relieved, but her doubts remained. But, how could it be such a coincidence? There are no coincidences in this world. What happened to that woman? Mrs. Tan simply hated her to death. Is she even dead? She is really lucky. She's still at the princess's mansion, my lord. What I mean is that the woman was seriously injured, and even if she were alive, she probably wouldn't have a chance to see you. How can I be sure of this? Let him attack again quickly. The boss said that it's not that easy in the princess's mansion. The general is at home. We can only wait for another chance. It's impossible for a woman to live there forever. Once she gets home, it will be easy to take action. This piece of trash is more likely to fail than succeed." Mr. Tan scolded him fiercely. She was ruined by him. Just like last time, things were done, and the Bai family was ruined, but in the end, he didn't lose anything. He even ran away like a lost dog. As a result, I can only escape while pregnant and taking my mother with me, and I can't take away so many good things. I could only bring a few soft goods with me. I didn't get very far before I was robbed. Not only was my wealth gone, but the thieves also robbed me of sex. I even had my clothes stripped off by the thieves. If his mother hadn't stabbed him with a hairpin. In the end, the mother and daughter had no choice but to make a stink again, like beggars. This is how mother and daughter came, and this is how they left. Even if you become Mrs. Ho now, but Mr. Bai's handsome figure, eyes like stars, smile that makes people forget all sorrow, his strange language, and his concentration and seriousness when working, who in this world can do it? Compared with him, she could have been Bai Ziyun side by his side. Even, have a chance to become the White Lady. This is really a shortcoming that even if she becomes the queen, she cannot make up for it. Seeing that she was in a daze, Mrs. Zhou asked, "Madam, do you have anything else to say? I want to see him, he's in the capital, don't always go to that temple. Then wait for the news." After Mrs. Zhou left, Mrs. Tan's good mood suddenly fell to the bottom. Why are things so bad? Who am I provoking? The girl outside is in a hurry. If she doesn't dress up, it will be time. "Madam, what's wrong?" "Madam," they called quietly outside. Mr. Tan ignored it and turned around like a headless fly. "Madam," the girl reminded loudly. "I heard it." "What are you crying for?" Mrs. Tan was furious. Everyone was waiting in the back hall, even the Marquis, who was dressed in fine clothes, arrived. Tan's family was the last to come. Mr. Ho looked at his old wife. Her blush was a bit heavy today. He shook his head and smiled, "You are in a good mood." When Mrs. Tan came over with a smile, Marquis Chi asked about the smell of alcohol on her body. "What, did you drink it yourself?" "Master Ho, I am." Before Tan could finish speaking. At the door, a senior officer of the Marquis came back, "Master Ho, Lord Zhang Jiangqingzang of Dali Temple is here. He said there is something urgent." When you heard this, he felt happy and whispered to Chi Wu, "Brother Zhang Qing is doing the right thing. You see, it's better to pinch it a little. We don't have to kneel down to salute." Chi Wu looked at her faintly, "Don't laugh like that." "What's wrong?" Wen said strangely. Chi Wu came closer and said, "You can't smile so sweetly when you mention him." When you smiled even more. The Marquis was a little surprised, "What is he doing here?" "I said I have a case and I want to ask, the third master." Chi Yu narrowed her eyes and immediately thought of that small courtyard, shouldn't it? The courtyard has been empty for a while. Mrs. Tan's heart was in turmoil. If it hadn't been for the letter she just got, she wouldn't have taken it seriously. But now, she had a gut feeling that the matter was related to Wen Yu, and asked coldly, "Wen Yu, it seems like this Mr. Zhang is a friend of the Wen family, right?" Wen Yu nodded, "Going back to my grandmother, the Zhang family is a family friend of the Wen family." Mrs. Tan looked straight at Wen Yu, but didn't see anything from her. "Master Marquis, please invite Mr. Zhang to come in?" "I'll listen to." She sat down on the seat, and what she said to her heart, "I want to see, what do you want?" Chi Ho nodded, "Please come in." Tan's heart beat a few times, and she suddenly turned around, "What are you afraid of? I didn't leave any clue about what happened back then. Many years have passed, things have changed, people have changed, and my son is not a piece of clay. Now, who can do anything to me?" After thinking about this, I looked around and realized that everything I have today was obtained by blocking people and killing people. How can it be lost so easily? Not long after, Zhang Zhangqing led a subordinate and entered the door. "I have met Mr. Ho and Mrs. Ho." "General Qi." Mr. Ho nodded, "Master Zhang, please take a seat." After Zhang Zhangqing sat down, Marquis Qi asked, "What's the matter with Mr. Zhang?" "Mr. Ho. Zhang is working on a case. Something involves Mr. Qi, so I came here to ask. However, I just heard that today is Mrs. Ho's birthday, but Zhang Qing was rash. This is not bad. It's not that urgent, I'll ask again later." Chi Yu looked at Zhang Zhangqing quietly, not panicking. Although he doesn't know the reason, Chi-ho would be stupid if he didn't know that someone was targeting him. So, he smiled, Master Zhang is already here, so don't be polite. If you have anything, just ask. Yes. Mr. Chi-san, is the fifth small courtyard in Huajiahutong rented by Mr. Chi? No, Chi-yu thought, it was indeed the case. He grinned, with black eyes, red lips, and white teeth, a bit charming. Why do you ask Master Zhang like this? A neighbor reported that women's shouts and cries were often heard in that yard. The government sent people to knock on the door, but it seemed that no one was living there. After investigating the surrounding area, I heard that you rented it. An informant also said that a young man was seen in and out. Draw it as the informant described it. Zhang Zhongqing took out a piece of paper, took it from his hand, and handed it to the marquis. Suddenly, Chi-yu was drawn on it. Chi-ho took it and looked at it. Without saying anything, he handed it to Chi-yu. Chi-yu took it and glanced at it. Why do I look at it? It looks like my fifth brother. Chi-woo acted as if he hadn't heard anything. When you snuggled next to MRSG and pretended not to hear it? Zhang Zhongqing continued, due to receiving several reports, we broke into the courtyard yesterday and saw some whips and knives in the room. At the scene, there was also a man covered in wounds, disheveled clothes, and unconscious. Woman. Chi-yu heard a trace of doubt in his eyes. How could this happen? The person is already dead and was taken away a few days ago. Are you trying to defraud me? He smiled again. This is easy. Mr. Zhang woke up the woman and asked who hurt her. Wouldn't it be over? Zhang Zhongqing said, but we found out through investigation that you rented that yard. Everyone at the scene looked at each other. The atmosphere was tense. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 318. Chapter 318 Surprised. Kyo listened steadily and calmly. MRS-10 first looked at Chi-yu, and saw that there was no trace of panic on his face, and she felt a little relieved. Turning around to look at MS Lu, no. Why is she nervous? If Chi-yu was wrongly accused, why didn't she look as angry as Zhu? Broken. Did Chi-yu really do something in that yard? Mr. Zhang, I have already told you that I have not rented that yard, nor have I been there. If you ask, you must have evidence. Chi-yu ignored it and took a sip from the wine glass on the table. Do you have a guard named Zhang Yuan? At this time, Chi-ho frowned. Have. He signed the rental contract. Can I let him come to answer the question? Chi-yu smiled brightly. Why not? Grandpa, look. Mr. Tan sneered. Master Zhang, Chi-yu has already said that he did not rent the yard. He is not the signatory of the contract. Whoever signed it is the one you go to. When he came up, he never left Chi-yu. He just wanted to. Is he involved? In that case, why ask? Just convict him. Zhang Zhongqing said respectfully, Madam, today Zhang came to Chi's house to ask questions instead of directly summoning your third son to the yamen. This is also a sign of respect for Chi's house. I hope you understand. When Tan heard this, he stopped talking. Chi-ho's eyes were burning, but he still didn't speak. Chi-yu said, Master Zhang misunderstood. How could the Chi family not know your good intentions? But what you said is really too bizarre. Father, why don't you call Zhang Yuan over and ask? Not long after, Zhang Yuan came in. Chi-yu looked at him with a hint of coldness. Tan said, Zhang Huiwei, your ancestors have always followed the Chi family. You were placed by Chi-yu's side personally by the marquis. You must be cautious and follow the rules. If Mr. Zhang has something to ask, please answer it carefully. The marquis is here, don't be afraid. Chi-ho did not look at his old wife, but he knew that she was worried. What's the matter? Who is messing with the Chi family? Why did you start with Chi-yu? He has no great power, and he doesn't bother anyone. Zhang Zhongqing has already started to ask, Zhang Yuan, did you rent the house in Huajia Hutong? Tan family, Lu family, and Qi Yu all looked at Zhang Yuan intently. Zhang Yuan nodded, I went to find the middleman to look at the house, rent it, and clean it. However, someone else asked me to rent it. Who is it? Everyone looked at him. Feng Jian, he is also the third master's bodyguard. Zhang Zhongqing said, you are both guards, why did he let you rent a house? He said, third master asked me to do it. Nonsense, Ms. Tan said loudly, if your third master wanted to rent a house, wouldn't he tell you directly, why did you go around and let Feng Jian tell you? In reply to Madam, my subordinates didn't know these things. Feng Jian made some requests, so I went out to find the middleman. I looked at a few places and told Feng Jian. After a few days, Feng Jian pointed out my subordinate rented this place, arranged for someone to clean it, and handed the key to Feng Jian. Master Ho, call Feng Jian, said Tan. After a while, Feng Jian also came. As a result, when he came up, he pushed him away. Master Ho, sir, I don't understand what Zhang Yuan said. I didn't ask him to rent it, and I never went there. I stayed with him all day long. I haven't seen third master come to my side. Mrs. Tan looked at everyone with a sneer, what else is there to say? Lord Marquis, someone is colluding to harm you or, she glanced at Mrs. Qi, her son, and Wen Yu fiercely. Qi Yuyi's back was sweating. Could it be Kui's doing? Qi Ho also ignored everyone's attitude and said, Master Zhang, in your opinion, how should we handle this matter next? The interview just now has been recorded. Just sign and stamp it. I'm afraid, Zhang Huwei will be taken away. Qi was silent for a while, and then slowly said, Zhang Yuan's grandfather died to save me. Zhang Yuan was also watched by me, it doesn't seem like he did something inappropriate. If you have something to ask, I can find a room for you to ask carefully. Moreover, I also promise that you can ask at any time in the future. As for taking him away, I thought, you should wait until you find out the identity of the woman, or wait until she wakes up and can testify. Zhang Yuan's eyes were slightly moist. Qi Yu snorted in her heart and lowered her eyes. Zhang Zhongqing nodded, since the Marquis said so, then so be it. Zhang Huwei, you mean, you have never been to this yard again after you handed over the key? Zhang Yuan nodded, I stay at the house during the day and go back to accompany my father at night. Occasionally, there are people accompanying me when I go out. Therefore, I have never been to that place. Zhang Zhongqing said, I will check again when I go back, or wait until the woman wakes up. Lord Marquis, excuse me, he said and walked away. Although there was no result, Wen Yu also understood that this kind of thing would not happen overnight. Take your time. But a birthday party was finally disturbed. The Marquis was in a heavy heart and sat in the main seat for a while. Zhang Yuan, come to the front. You. He looked at the crowd, do whatever you want. After the Marquis left, Mrs. Tan looked at Mrs. G coldly. 3. Let's all go back to our rooms. Come here. Ms. Tan hurriedly returned to her yard, Qi Yu following behind. What's going on? Tan asked as soon as he sat down. Someone is hurting me. Qi Yu remained calm and unhurried. I know someone is harming you, so you have to tell me the truth. Did you rent the yard? Yes. Ms. Tan did not feel surprised or dissatisfied, but frowned slightly. Then why did you say that someone harmed you? Because the woman before was dead. Therefore, the woman Zhang Zhongqing said was found alive. There was simply a frame-up when he talked about this matter. He was calm and did not take it seriously at all. The Tan family also ignored this matter. Then it's the Kui family. Okay, they are going to take the initiative. Grandma, you mean, Duanmu is also one of them, Chi Yu felt happy talking to her grandmother for the first time. The details haven't been clarified yet. But there is one thing. There was a master in Wen Yu's shop who encountered a robbery and murderer. He was saved by that Duan Muo. Now, he is still living in his house. Although a few things seem to have no cause and effect. But how could it be such a coincidence? Chi Yang, Wen Yu, I won't let them go, Chi Yu said bitterly. Grandma won't let them go, but that's another story. Do you have any clues in Zhang Yuan's hands? Chi Yu stopped talking. You, will he tell the Marquis? Chi Yu shook his head, he doesn't know how, and he doesn't dare. He is the guard given to me by my grandfather. In this life, I am the only master. If he is a seller, no matter what the reason, my grandfather will not let him go. Besides, I told him, if he dares to betray me, his father and brother's lives will be lost. Yeah. That's the truth. Mrs. Tan nodded, then you should have thought of something earlier. I haven't wanted him for a long time, but it's just hard to get rid of him. Stupid, if a guard can't be sent away, how can he kill him? Don't worry, my grandfather will definitely do it for me this time. If I commit suicide out of fear of crime, it will be over. Mrs. Tan listened and nodded. Based on her understanding of the Marquis, killing Zhang Yuan was the best way for both public and private purposes. Your father's important matter is still undecided. Even if you pretend, you have to pretend for me. Did you see your grandfather's face just now? Do you think that if something really happened, he can protect you like your grandmother? Humph, and, if it's because of you that your father's affairs are messed up, your father won't be able to spare you. Although Chi Yu was still not convinced, he did not dare to say anything. Tan Shi frowned, thinking. Things may not go as smoothly as I thought. I'll write to your father and ask him to make arrangements and come to Beijing as soon as possible. Zhang Yuan and Chi Ho came to the front and knelt down. Master Ho, I am ashamed of myself. What do you want to tell me? Chi Ho looked at him. Zhang Yuan shook his head. My subordinate is stupid and incompetent, and the third master has trouble handling him. Every time he does something, he will make the third master angry. But because you arranged this subordinate by his side, if you want to deal with him, you must also take your face into consideration. So, the third master is also in trouble. Chi Ho snorted, did he build that house in the alley? Mr. Marquis, my subordinates only listened to Feng Jian's report and did not actually hear what the third master said, nor did they see the third master go there with their own eyes. Therefore, I don't know anything about it. Chi Ho looked at him indifferently, and Zhang Yuan felt cold in his heart. He knew that the third master just wanted to use him as a scapegoat. With his death, the matter will be resolved. I don't know if fifth master can save himself, Mu Ling. At this time, he could still think of Mu Ling, and his face turned red. He said sincerely, Master Marquis, I have always been thinking about my grandfather's remains. My father is ill and my brother is busy with official duties. They can't handle this matter. But it has always been on the minds of our father and son. I want to resign. Go and move the remains of my grandfather back to the family grave. Then, I just want to take care of my father for 100 years. My subordinate has no ambitions and no ability, Mr. Ho. He touched his head to the ground. I hope Mr. Ho will make it happen. The Marquis thought of his grandfather, the guy who loved to giggle so much, and his heart softened. Don't you have anything to say to me? Zhang Yuan shook his head. My subordinates are incompetent and I cannot trust the Marquis. Wen Yu and Chi Wu arranged for Labo to keep an eye on them, and if something unexpected happened, they asked her to the person out first. I don't know what Grandpa will do when you kick Chi Wu with his little foot, and Chi Wu just stared at it, one after another. It was late at night, and Laba came back with news, Feng Jian committed suicide out of fear. When Tan and Chi Yu heard the news, they were both surprised and thought about it all night. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 319. Chapter 319. He has no conscience. The next morning, Marquis Chi was in front and did not mention what happened yesterday. Facing Chi Yu, he pointed to the two guards beside him. Grandpa Zhang Yuan has other arrangements. These are Chi Liufu and Lu Tuyan. Let them follow you temporarily. Liufu is older and more stable. Tuyan is more skilled. Not bad. I'll look for it later when I have some time. I'll see if there's something more suitable. Chi Yu's face turned pale. Was his grandfather staring at him? Give it to two guards, and they said it was for my temporary use. Let them be in Cao's camp and their hearts are in Han. This old man. But what can he do? Smiling respectfully, thank you, Grandpa. Even if Marquis Chi didn't mention what happened yesterday, he would pretend that nothing happened. There was no expression on Chi Wu's face, but Chi Yuyi, Chi Hua and others were confused. When Mr. Tan heard the news from behind, he nodded and smiled, okay. His grandfather still loves him. Looking at the several granddaughter-in-laws in front of her except Wen Yu, she said to Mrs. Su, it's cold now, and if it's windy again, you have to be careful when you're pregnant. Don't run here all the time recently. Grandma, I know you are the most filial person. When Chi Xiao comes back after the new year, you can go out with him. Mrs. Su saw Mrs. Tan's smile on her face and her tone of voice softly. She knew that what happened yesterday was over, but she still wanted to get close to Mrs. Tan again. My granddaughter-in-law, I wish you well. That's natural. You. Mrs. Tan's smile could hardly hold back, okay. Go back first. I have something to say with your third aunt. Mrs. Su then bowed and left. When the granddaughter-in-laws left and the girls were kicked out, Mrs. Tan looked at Mrs. Lu coldly. Kneel down, her voice was stern. Ms. Lu blushed deeply and knelt down silently. Back then, you were the daughter-in-law I selected after 1,000 choices for you, Duan. The so-called lady, is this how you teach your son? She had a mean face and a sharp voice. Ms. Lu lowered her head in shame. Mrs. Tan looked at her condescendingly, whose family has a daughter-in-law who doesn't serve her mother-in-law? It's me. I'll find a way for you to accompany Yuduan out, so that you have the chance to give birth to 3 sons. Otherwise, you will be beside Yuduan. Those vixens are enough for you to drink a pot. This language and attitude are really vulgar. Mr. Lu has never seen this side of her mother-in-law, her heart is beating wildly. But it's good for you. You've been born, but you don't know how to teach. You has only just come back, how did you get into this? Mrs. Lu whispered, I'm sorry, mother, it's my daughter-in-law who doesn't discipline me strictly. It's useless to say this now, do you see what the Marquis means? He is worried about your son, he has sent people to keep an eye on him. Are you happy now? What Lu said to his heart, how could I be happy? I felt dissatisfied, but I didn't dare to reply. I have never knelt down like this before, my legs hurt. I only have one son, Yuduan. I was so determined to let him leave me, leave the bustling capital, and go to the northwest to suffer. What he wanted was the foundation of the Chi family. Now it's about to end, but the result is unexpected. Such a thing happened. Mrs. Tan was obviously very angry, but she did not blame her grandson, but her daughter-in-law for not teaching her well. The capital is not the northwest. Do you think no one will care about how he makes trouble? You are also a lady trained by the Lu family, and you don't even understand this. Mrs. Tan slapped the table. Mrs. Lu quickly said, my daughter-in-law has neglected it. Please punish her. Mrs. Tan snorted again, paused for a while, and then said, I don't know if you understand this family's affairs clearly. In the past, Ms. Kui pretended to be noble and regarded her title and property as dirt. But now, she is also relaxed. Guo Meyer is here. And when you, despite her young age, she is very clever. Even though Mr. Ho didn't mention this matter yesterday, it's not over yet. Chi Yu, watch him. Yes, Lu agreed. MRS-10 was still dissatisfied. How did you choose this MRS Zhu? It's so useless. She can't even win over her husband. Look at her when you, MRS Kui was so stupid in the past. How many losses did she suffer? There is no such thing in the family. The one facing her. And Chi Wu, it seems like there is no such person in the house. Look at it now, isn't it all the change that comes from marrying Wen Yu? Don't just look at Quan Quan. Around. Talk to Mr. Zhu. Lu still replied, yes. MRS-10 looked at MRS Lu with disgust, waited for a long time, and then said, get up. Do you still want me to help you? Mr. Lu has always been favored in her boudoir, and she is also a popular lady in the Northwest. I am so old, but I am still kneeling and being scolded by my mother-in-law. I feel really sad. My daughter-in-law understands her mother's teachings. Go down, Mr. Tan said coldly. After giving Mr. Lu a lesson, Mr. Tan leaned back and felt much more comfortable when he saw the slightly embarrassed back. What kind of lady? I can't even teach my son. Look at how I teach properly. MRS Lu returned to her room with tears streaming down her face. The nanny next to me quickly advised, Madam, your eyes swell when you cry. Don't be sad anymore. She said I didn't teach Chi Yu, why didn't I teach him? Who knows why he has such a hobby? She tried, but he didn't even listen. I want to hide it from the Marquis and his father, and also help him deal with the aftermath. Is it easy for me? I know you are in trouble, our third master is really good at everything, so why, oh. Humph, who knows who is following me, our Lu family is not like this. Zhang Yuan got away and was about to set off with Mu Bo. It's a pity that Master Qing didn't wake up, so Yu Bai had to tell them some of the past events mentioned by his aunt. When you asked the two of them to take 2 guards with them. If there is any news, they can send it to Beijing step by step. We have to go to Zijing and Niojia village, and we also have to check the Yaman's files. It takes too long, and it's not easy to check. I also explained everything I could think of. Song Shang wrote several letters to some of his connections along the way. If necessary, he asked them to find them. After the two of them set off, Wen Yu was about to move Master Qing to Hao'erhe Villa. However, Duan Muwai was reluctant to leave Yu Bai and said to Wen Yu, actually, they can stay for a while longer. But Yu Bai was already fed up. He originally thought that General Duan Mu was a silent and domineering figure who would rather use his hands than speak. Unexpectedly, he turned out to be a talkative person and always dragged me into playing chess. But his chess game is really stinky and he likes to play it. If it weren't for the sake of saving his aunt, Yu Bai would have wanted to throw the chessboard. So, before Wen Yu even mentioned it, Yu Bai secretly packed all the gifts. When he came to pick them up, he walked out the door without looking back. Duan Muwai couldn't believe it. How could he be so heartless? Master Qing and Yu Bai share a car, and Wen Yu shares a car. Chi Wu followed with his guards. Duan Mu was so lively that he could ride a horse. He thought to himself, although that man has no conscience, mine is very good. Sent Buddha to the west, he also followed on horseback. The group of people seemed to be going to Wen Yu's house, but in fact they were not. Having reached the halfway point, Duan Mu reined in his horse and stopped. He picked up his machete, dismounted, looked back, and didn't know who he was looking at, with a sinister smile on his lips. Pedestrians on the street were frightened to death, hiding aside one after another, gathering in small groups and whispering. Who is this? Who is he fighting with the knife? After discussing for a long time, they didn't know that there were two people falling behind, but they had already made a tacit agreement to turn around and stop following. Hey courtyard, Taejun is not here, so everything has been arranged by the housekeeper. Normally, there is no owner living in this courtyard, so the housekeeper is very enthusiastic. They lived in small courtyards next to each other. The housekeeper pointed and said, Master Ching lives in one. Young Master Yubai and young Master Lanzo live in the same room, so they can be companions. When you looked at the orderly room and couldn't help but ask, if His Highness the Crown Prince or His Highness the grandson comes to stay, will it disturb them? No way. Look, the main hall inside this wall is where His Royal Highness lives. It's just that His Royal Highness doesn't come here very often, the heating dragon has been burned, and the room isn't cold at all. When you took out a banknote with a high face value and said, thank you for your hard work. This banknote covers the various expenses for their stay here. It's almost spent. You can talk again. Oh, this can't be done. We don't dare to accept it without His Majesty's instructions. We are embarrassed enough to occupy the courtyard. Not to mention the people who eat and serve, the charcoal fire alone this winter will cost a lot. Take it first and keep an account. When His Majesty the grandson comes, you can follow him say. If he says no, you can give it back to us. That's it. Well, I'll keep it first. The house has been unoccupied for such a long time, and it is now so well kept you must have been busy with the people. These silvers are for you, the maids, sisters, and father-in-law. You can divide them up as you like. The housekeeper was overjoyed. Thank you, Mrsg Wu. You're welcome. Everything else is fine. There's only one thing I have to entrust you with. Lanzhou is not in good health and doesn't like to talk. Please tell your subordinates not to disturb him as much as possible and not to scare him. He also has people waiting by his side. But there is a pond in the yard, and he has two turtles. If the turtle goes to play in the pond, don't let him fall in by mistake. I understand, don't worry, someone will take care of me. Wen Yu was extremely generous with his actions. For a time, everyone in the garden was very happy. You make your own arrangements today, and we'll come over and take a look tomorrow. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 320. Chapter 320 The Style of a Wise King. The two men followed Duanmuai halfway, and were frightened by Duanmuai. They did not dare to follow any more and went back to report to Li Kun. Li Kun was not surprised and nodded, since they are prepared, let's let it go for a while. There is no rush. If they move back, let's look for another chance. Li Daniu got the news about him and made a fuss to see him. I'm a little worried now, do I have nothing to do? The matter at hand now is not easy even if we take 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. She is still causing trouble. If I hadn't hoped that her son would take control of the Qi family and be useful to me, I would really. The next day, when you came to see how they were living, but unexpectedly, a large number of people followed him. If Zuzu is coming, Hu Fei will definitely follow. Then I heard Mr. Wen say, when he goes down to court, he will come after finishing his work. The Chen sisters, Mu Ling and Zhang Jingqing, also wanted to come and see Master Qing's nephew. Zhang Zhangqing came because Wen Yu had something to do with him. The 3 sisters of the Wen family always ask their eldest brother to deliver the goods to the store recently. When they hear that they are going to the royal courtyard, they encourage the eldest brother not to leave and to go together later. Song Shang is Yubai's savior, but the two of them haven't met yet, so they came together to meet him this time. At night in Duanmuo, I came to the yard where Yubai lived as usual, but the man was no longer there. Feeling empty in his heart, he decided to go over and take a look. The prince's courtyard was deserted, and he must have been uncomfortable living there. Better encourage him to move back. As a result, the other courtyard, which had always been quiet, suddenly became lively. It's not in vain. The car is carrying food and drink, and the housekeeper is busy. Yubai was excited when he saw Songshang. If it weren't for this person, I'm afraid I would have died of old age in that dirty place. So he gave a great gift to Songshang. Songshang saw him, even though his legs and feet were inconvenient, his elegant demeanor was rare in the world. He quickly helped him and said with a smile, "There are rumors in the world that Donghu and 11 Bai are together. I never thought that one day Song would be able to see you guys get together. What a blessing." Hu Fei and Yu Bai met each other. They felt quite sympathetic to each other. They sat together and chatted for a long time. "We also made an appointment to have a chat one day when we are free." Duan Mu happily expressed his superb chess skills and wanted to join. Yu Bai suddenly felt in a bad mood. Zuzuk pulled Lanzhou and asked him about his living habits. "How was your meal? Whether it's cold or not or something like that." It can be seen that Lanzhou is very satisfied with this place. Yu Bai was even more satisfied and ignored Duan Mu's cliches about wanting him to move back. The garden was beautiful and quiet, and Lanzhou was well behaved. Yu Bai took care of him when he was happy, and it was fine if he didn't want to. He had already arranged everything for the day ahead. "Feel good." Wen Yu was whispering to Zhang Zhongqing, and Qi Wu was worried. He sat between the two of them, slightly closer to his wife, without interrupting, looking at his wife and Zhang Qing. Wen Yu said, "I didn't intend to use this incident to do anything to him. The current situation is very good. Someone is watching him openly. At least he will not cause trouble to other women in a short time. Mubo and the others go, even if everything goes smoothly, it will take 2 or 3 months. Let's investigate everything we can and wait for them to come back. I've already made contact and will go to the countryside to check the file the day after tomorrow." "Okay. Don't forget to take that box away later. There are some broken gold and silver and small banknotes in it. No matter what you do, money is indispensable. Your brothers will follow, rent donkeys and horses, stay in hotels, and have meals. Everyone has to pay for it, and everyone has to pay for it." Zhang Qing smiled helplessly, "You really don't have to worry about this." Qi Wu interrupted, "Zhang Qing, just listen to you. You're welcome. Everything is based on convenience. Money is not a problem here." When Yu Miao looked at Qi Wu and felt that he was really. "Yes, brother Zhang Qing, my husband has a lot of money in his private house." Qi Wu's ears turned red and he stopped talking. The eldest brother of the Wen family took a few girls and looked around all the places they could. He shook his head and sighed, "After all, this is the royal courtyard. It's so majestic. There is really nothing that is not exquisite. Yesterday, my grandson got the message that people have moved in. He originally just asked the car to drive around to see how the arrangement was going. In the end, just look at the excitement of a group of people toasting glasses. Especially Duan Mu's loud voice, you can hear it from a long way away, come on, fill it up quickly. Song Shang. Why do I think you didn't drink the cup just now? Master Wen testifies, I drank it. Lord Wen's voice, I am the fairest person, he drank it, just like this. Dad, you can't just raise a glass to accompany everyone who drinks, this is the one named Zuzhu. Subsequently, a bunch of women laughed. Taijun couldn't believe his eyes. Didn't they hide in my other courtyard because they had nowhere to hide? This is for enjoyment. Where is it? The tiger is not at home, but the monkey acts as the king. Birds take over nestle? Taishun coughed several times, but no one paid attention to him. Finally the butler saw it, oh. Your Highness is here. Everyone, Our Highness is here. The laughter and noise stopped. Everyone stood up, especially the women present, most of whom had never seen him before, and were curious and scared. Taejun felt that people stopped laughing when he came, which was very boring. When it's time to eat and drink, give me a glass of wine. Chi-woo came up and introduced him. Taejun was a little stunned when he saw Yubai. He sighed that there are so many kinds of people in this world. Sitting between Hufei and Yubai, it feels great. The three of them drank and chatted. Of course, as a grandson, his ambitions are high. Referring to the former Bai family, it was too closed and idle. There was obviously a skill that benefited the people, but it was not managed with care and could not be effectively spread. In the end, the wisdom and hard work of many generations were destroyed in one day. This is not only a loss for the Bai family, but also a loss for the people of the world. How could Yubai have imagined that one day, he would be able to sit next to such a noble person and hear such sincere and wise words? Suddenly deceived, excited, with red eyes. Means that he will go back to his hometown after his aunt wakes up. He heard his aunt mention that these family inheritances were also stored in another location. It's just that my aunt was young and couldn't remember clearly. When their aunt and nephew return to their hometown to investigate, there may be a chance. If he can really find it, he will use it to contribute to the court. Taejun was very satisfied and said, Mr. Yubai understands the general situation and takes into account the overall situation. I will definitely choose the right person to thoroughly investigate the case. If it is an unjust case, I will definitely clear up the injustice for the Bai family. Yubai was so excited that he wanted to make a big salute, but Taejun stopped him. The days are long. Today we are friends. Yubai burst into tears, which he had not experienced in many years. Taejun expressed his appreciation to Hufei, saying that the Hu family has made great achievements in Hufei's hands. He opened a school to share knowledge, taught many skilled craftsmen, and made a lot of contributions to the prosperity of hundreds of miles around. He will suggest to the emperor that the Hu family be rewarded. And when I heard that Mr. Hu was engaged, he would go to congratulate him in person. Moreover, Mrs. Hu's imperial edict would be issued immediately to the Ministry of Ceremonies. This time, Hu Fei was in the right position, and he was so moved that he respected and believed in his grandson. When you listened beside him and drank several glasses of wine before suppressing the discomfort in his heart, this man is shameless, but he knows how to be a king. Without even a penny being paid, Donghu and 11 Bai were roped in. Everyone thought he was a wise king, but who would have known that he would actually tamper with his wife's dowry? How shameless! Hatefully took another drink. Ayu, drink less. With Zhang Zhongqing present, Chi-woo stared at Wen Yu especially. Wen Yu looked at Chi-woo dissatisfied. Is this the person you are following? In a blink of an eye, I saw what Taejun and Duanmu were murmuring. After a while, I saw him whispering to Song Shang again. Finally, Mr. Wen came over and exchanged cups, laughing from beginning to end. The sisters from the Chen family, the Wen family, Zhang Jingqing and others were so fascinated by the grandson's grace that they almost fell in love with her. They whispered, "Your Highness is truly a wise king." After everyone left, Yubai stayed by Master Qing's bedside and told his aunt about the incident. After returning home, Chi-woo was very emotional. He hugged Wen Yu and said, "Ah Yu, you are so capable. The legendary Donghu and 11 Bai were connected through you. How cool it is to see them together today. Quite exciting." Wen Yu lazily leaned into his arms. "Oh, so what if I have the ability? I'm afraid there's an aureole behind me and I'm being taken advantage of."